The best advice I could give someone is go every day where there's a lot of activity, where there's a lot of moving and shaking, and fellow entrepreneurs and fellow business people.
Everyone, this is Jonathan back with the Canyon Entrepreneurial Podcast. This is episode 11. Here we have someone really awesome. He is a community-driven person, a real estate entrepreneur, a technical mind and proponent, someone who helps more than he takes, and someone who really helped me a lot in my career, someone who's been a pretty great guide and advice giver. Today we have Ryan Poole. Do you mind introducing yourself for a couple minutes?
Awesome, Jonathan. Thank you for that warm introduction. I'm glad to be here, especially with a fellow tech, prop tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I love meeting people. I've actually been in real estate for over 25 years, so love being in the real estate industry and obviously love being in the tech industry. I'm also on the board of 1909, as you're a member of, Jonathan, which is an awesome co-working space, incubator, accelerator to help fellow entrepreneurs. So I'm glad to be on here. It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you, even more so. So let's hear about how you got to where you are today. I think let's hear your life story, man.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. Let's see if I can unpack all this here in a short amount of time. But yeah, like you said, I grew up in northern Minnesota. Great place to grow up. Very safe. A lot of great family values up there. And I when I was in my early 20s, I took a vacation down to South Florida during spring break, and I was like, wow, this is a whole different world down here. It was actually in the Florida Keys, and it really just opened my mind up to a lot of different things. And I said, hey, I'd like to live there. So I actually was just going to come down and work for the summer. This was my second year in college. And I actually met my first really big mentor. And his name was Mike Montalto. And he actually owned a seafood restaurant that I was just going to work at for the summer. Because actually 2 summers before, when I was in college, I had worked at in Alaska in the seafood industry. Anyway, he was very wealthy, very successful. He had his restaurant, but he was big into real estate. And he gave me one of the best advice because I said, hey, I don't want to move back to Minnesota. It's cold. I want to be here in Florida. But I was doing great in college. I said, I just don't want to go back to Minnesota. He's like, listen, get your real estate license. He goes, Florida's going to blow up here. And this was back in the late 90s. And he goes, Florida's going to blow up in the next 20 so years. Get your real estate license, get into the business. You don't know what direction it's going to take. You see, I'm very successful with my restaurant, but he goes, I've made all my money in real estate. So that's what I did. I got my real estate very, very young. I was in my early 20s. I think I was 21 when I got my real estate license. And I started out, I knew I needed sales experience, right? Because I wanted to make money in real estate right away. I was young, I didn't have money to invest. So I actually started off, Jonathan, selling timeshare. So started at the literally very bottom of real estate. You know what I mean? At the very bottom, but it was one of the best sales trainings you can get, right? So, and I actually had very, very great success selling timeshares. I
Okay.
that I knew that I liked that, but then I said, I really want to get into more general estate, like traditional real estate rather than developers. So I started getting into that, started having success with that as well. But then the big thing happened 2008, right? 2008 was when the real estate market crashed. And of course, that was from the subprime mortgages. Everybody remembers that. They were giving loans to anybody with a pulse. Luckily, a really good friend of mine who I was doing real estate deals with before, his name was Bill by Mel. Um, he got a phone call from this hedge fund out in California called Condor Capital. And they said, hey, we have some real estate that we have here in South Florida. We bought a big tranche of non-performing loans, and we're working on getting the properties back. We need some really good boots on the ground asset managers to help manage these assets, get the deed in lieu of foreclosures, and sell these properties.
This video is sponsored by Estimate, the real estate calculator tool that allows investors to analyze properties up to 20 times faster by streamlining data and insights. It turns hours of work into just minutes. letting investors make quick and informed decisions with just a click of the button without having to leave the places they like to work. Your ideal property is just one click away.
But what happened was these regional banks that had all these loans on their books, they were selling off the loans to these large hedge funds um, in bulk, basically in large tranches, and they were buying the properties at massive discounts. So they were buying the let's say the loan was 300,000, right? That the people owed. Well, the house is worth $150 now, right? So it's worth half of what it was. People aren't making payments. They don't want to pay towards a house that it's worth half of what they paid for it. So what the banks did, then they bundled up the loans and sold them to these hedge funds for literally like 10, 20 cents on the dollar. So they were buying
Wow.
yeah, they were buying the loans for like 30, 50 grand, and the houses are worth $150. So what they would do, and this is where Bill, great entrepreneur, great mentor, love him to death. He's like, man, why don't we start an asset management company and help these hedge funds and these regional banks navigate this whole workout of these foreclosures? So tell you, it was one of the most exciting times in real estate, one of the most money I've made in real estate at that time. And yeah, we started RSI Asset Management, which was an asset management company right on his kitchen table. And our first big client was Condor Capital. And it was a wild ride. We built that business up to where we had over $250 million under management at one time.
Whoa. Dude,
Yeah.
lots to unpack there. I think I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think everyone likes to talk about COVID, as like that that
Mhm.
that moment that changed a lot of things for real estate for a lot of people, and I think it's
Yeah.
huge. But I think 2008 really kind of helped people understand that this as a tragic experience as a recession or a crash could be, it is an opportunity for people to change their lives. But like you were saying before, like Florida was ground zero. So it's really interesting to see,
Yeah.
what your perspective must have been like. I think a lot of
Uh,
people who've seen that movie Big Short, like there's that one
Yeah,
scene
yeah. Well,
with
that's
the
what I mean. I
two
have,
cocky guys were like,
yeah, no,
oh, who
I have a
cares?
lot of mixed emotions on it because honestly, these guys that started these hedge funds that were buying the non-performing loans were got ex-Bear Stearns guys, that kind of
Oh my
were
God.
doing the mortgage-backed securities run up,
Yeah.
So I have mixed emotions about that. But the one good thing that did come out of it for the borrowers, Jonathan, of when this thing's worked out. So these hedge funds then once they bought these loans at these discounts, right, they would go to the borrowers, and this was part of what I did and where I could help people and really, have them do a fresh start was they would go to the borrowers and go, hey, listen, we're the new owner of your loan. You owe us 300,000. Obviously, your house is worth $150. What if we could just make this whole purchase disappear like it never happened? And we could give you a fresh start. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, this new company bought your loan. They're willing to basically have you walk away for this. If you sign the property over deed and foreclosure, we'll give you full forgiveness of debt, full deficiency waiver, if you sign the property back to the to the new person that owns your loan. And it was great for the borrowers. And then the nice thing about the hedge funds, because they were in, they had a lot of money to work with, right,
Hmm.
to help this process, because they're going to be making a lot of money on the back end. So they go, how about if we give you, $5,000, $10,000 for a fresh start, so you can go get a new place.
Yep.
And they did what's called cash for keys, right? So that made me feel good because these people were stuck anyway, right? So we're giving them a fresh start, getting them so they don't have a foreclosure on the record, aren't ruining their credit, and they're giving them money to help, to a new start and rent a place and get back on track and move on. So yeah, I did that basically, Jonathan, from, about the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, all the way up to about 2016. So an 8-year run with real estate.
Wow.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think, you saw these prices jump like all the way down, these loans that were, three times the actual value, overnight flipped over to a super small number. Did that kind of motivate you to say like, okay, now's the time to start, acquiring some of these assets for myself? Or
Yeah.
what motivated you to get your own property?
Yeah, so the good thing is as that process was starting and we had good relationships with these hedge funds, I was in the opportunity and we had the systems and the attorneys in place to do deed in lieu foreclosures, is they would spin off some of the loans too on ones and twos. So yeah, we were able to buy some loans ourselves, right, and get the properties back through deed in lieu foreclosures ourselves and then rent them out or resell them. So there was able an opportunity to build wealth. But I saw like the interesting thing, Jonathan, is like I saw the whole almost like the back of a clock, like opening up a clock and looking at the gears of actually how real estate is run. Because I was so focused on the equity side, I didn't see the whole debt side of the industry, which
Hmm.
is massive, Jonathan. It's a big, large part of real estate is on the debt side, and I saw how that works. I saw how that debt can be bought and sold, and how people can basically invest in the debt and real estate rather than just the equity side. So I
Yeah.
got, that opened up my eyes to a lot about the real estate industry. But it was an interesting time, and it was a great run, like I said, from about the end of 2008 through 2016. And then my next stage in my career. So that started to dry up because it became a lot more competitive. There were a lot more players. The real
Hmm.
estate market started to go up, and things started to change. And then that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go back into general real estate, right? So I'm going to do kind of a normal brokerage model, and about 2000, yeah, about 2000, end of 2016, so into 17, and started getting back into general real estate. And it'd been a while, since I was in general estate because I was in it before, and I just saw now the big changes were with the portals, right? So the big tech companies like Zillow, like Trulia, like Realtor.com, right, were becoming very significant. And I said, wow, these guys could really like, corner the market here. And I really saw their business model, especially Zillow, of how it worked. You know, I don't know if the listener knows how Zillow works, but to just give a little bit of color to it, Zillow works in a way that all our agents, right? We spend a lot of money to basically join MLS boards, right? And basically, the MLS is a place where brokers can view other properties for sale by other brokers, and the brokers offer commission to cooperating brokers, saying, "Hey, I have this property for sale. Here's the photos, property descriptions, and at that time, I'm offering 3% as a co-broke." But what was happening was the MLSs were taking that data, then pushing it to these large portals like Zillow. And Zillow's business model, which was kind of crazy, is they basically would cover up the listing agents, then show the photos, and then what they would do is Zillow would take that data that from the agents and then make the agents bid against themselves, right, for the right to talk to the leads off that data. And it's usually not the listing agent, it's someone else that's buying that zip code. I'm like, man, what a broken system. Is like number one, like the agents can't build a real online presence on Zillow. No one knows who they are. After a sale happens, you just disappear, right? The buyers and sellers aren't actually getting the best agents, in that area. They're just getting whoever spends the most money for that zip code. So I'm like, man, it wasn't a real transparent system. And an idea started coming to me. It's like, man, I'd really like to disrupt this space. And that was always in the back of my mind. And I knew like if I was going to be relevant in real estate, I had to move into tech. So, fast forward about, 3 years, and all of a sudden the idea for RealTrade came to me, Jonathan, which was, very exciting. And it's been a wild ride since. So, the idea came to me in about 2018, 19. And for people that don't know what RealTrade is, okay, it's a tech platform. Okay, it's a prop tech platform. It's online marketplace and social media platform for real estate. So it's a marketplace similar to Zillow, right? That has properties for sale that we got an IDX feed from the MLS, but we have a totally different business model. We're not selling leads back to agents, but then we have also integrated an awesome social media component to it, where not only can the buyers and sellers get connected with agents directly on the platform, they can be connected with other service providers like lenders, like title companies, like inspectors, like contractors. I mean, as you know, Jonathan, you're in real estate. You need a big network, right, to help you sell real estate or buy real estate, so everybody can get connected. So think Zillow meets LinkedIn only for real estate, but different business model.
Yeah, that's huge. I think the
Yeah.
best agents, like are the person who could help you find a lender, the person who could help you find an inspector. If there's some termites, they got someone to do this for you. So like, especially if you're, starting off as an agent or you're starting off as an investor, you're just kind of in there. And especially in real estate, since it's when you're first talking about it and you're first getting into it, it's like, hey, it's so simple. Houses, loan, next thing, like couple steps get skipped and then profit, like that one South Park joke. But obviously
Yep.
there's a million steps in between, and having like that knowledge of like the ins and outs, obviously all these finer details of the financing, but also just that human connection really sets, these professionals apart. And, if you're new to an area or you're just new to the industry, then you have a lot of catching up to do. I know some agents who are really great people, super smart, really, really passionate about it, but it's one of those things that just has a ramping up period, like at least a year, a couple months before your first deal, then you get a couple, and then, after a couple years, your clients start coming back to you, and those connections you made start kind of helping you in ways that you don't even imagine. But, that first couple months, those first couple years are tough. So what you're doing is almost, putting the accelerator on that and just saying like, hey, I could get you connected with anyone and everyone. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly. I mean, we're, right on our landing page and people can check out RealTrade. You can just Google RealTrade, it'll come up. It's realtrade.io. But yeah, we're real estate made social. So we're like accelerating instead of everything being covered up like on Zillow and not knowing who you're talking to. Like everything's open in on RealTrade. So you can directly connect to the listing agent. You can actually chat through the app with them if you have questions. You can actually post comments on the listings if you have a question, and the listing agent can respond. And then if you need a new good buyer's agent, if you're a buyer, you can search them out and find the best, the best agents on the platform who are actually doing deals. We bring in all their past sales, so you can do some research on them. We let them link their social media accounts, so you can check and you check them out on their website. So provide one place then to do your due diligence and find the best agents, find the best service providers, whether it's a lender or title company or good attorney, all right there. And of course, the big thing is they can use the marketplace, right? And search properties and save properties and save searches and all that kind of good stuff like they can on other, marketplaces. So
Yeah.
it's pretty revolutionary. We have a lot of cool tools, not only for buyers and sellers, which is that we have awesome ones for the real estate agents. We developed an AI assistant for agents to help them in their
Okay. Yeah.
real estate journey as well. So we have a lot of cool things that we're offering, to agents. And yeah, we have agents getting direct deals from RealTrade, making tens of thousands of extra dollars. We're helping facilitate, the big thing is those connections, getting those really good. I mean, you need a really good title company, as an agent, somebody that you can trust that knows going to close deals. We have some great ones. One of our best ones, New Path Title. Jim Brown, he's a real estate attorney, and I host a bi-weekly webinar with him. So like all those things can get connected, on RealTrade.
Yeah, and we'll have all those links in the description of this call. So if you're interested in RealTrade, we'll have their social media, their websites. How does one sign up? What are kind of things you got going on? Is it mostly America? Is it in South Florida? Is it everywhere? What do people need to know before they start
Yeah,
looking
right
into
now
it?
we're in South Florida. It's such a massive real estate market down here. So, we've been, because we launched about 3.5, 4 years ago now. So, we're really have been refining our business model and what works and what agents want. We're now getting ready in development, very excited, Jonathan, with the opportunity for agents to upload listings directly on a real trade. So we'll have the IDX feed plus they can upload them first because there's that 24 to 48-hour window where if they want to maybe get a direct buyer, they can upload them onto RealTrade. And then we're going to start allowing agents throughout the country on the next phase to upload listings directly. And then the next phase, the third phase, is allow agents from other countries to upload. Imagine that network with real estate agents and facilitate, real estate throughout the world. So that's really exciting. Really
That's awesome.
exciting about that, Jonathan, because there's some what they're called portal wars right now. Zillow and Homes.com, they're trying to work out of what's happening with the MLSs, and there's some big changes in the industry, and we want to take advantage of that with RealTrade, with the ability for agents to upload listings directly onto the platform.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think, if, as an agent, you're saving money probably, if you could have a couple days testing it out before putting on the MLS, saving time, making things quicker all around.
Yeah, no, for sure. And nice thing too, it's like for the general public, it's free to sign up. Our business model, we have a subscription model, then we have some enterprise solutions for service providers. So the agent's free to sign up. They want to sign up for agent premium and they have the AI tools and the premium badge and their listings are noted as premium. That's only $10 a month, which is very affordable. And then we have the service providers, they're paying. So if you're a lender or title company or inspector, they're paying $10 a month to be on RealTrade to network with the agents. Great place for referrals because right now we have over 3,000 agents, Jonathan, on the platform. Started from zero.
Wow.
Yeah, we got thousands of buyers and sellers on RealTrade every day using the platform to look for properties, and then we have about 200 service providers on the platform too offering their services. So you know, it's man, being an entrepreneur is not easy. I'm not gonna say it's easy building a tech company, especially a prop tech company. I know you're working on it yourself, Jonathan. You know what I
Yep,
mean?
yep,
It's a big grind. It's, everybody's obviously looking for that huge hockey stick curve growth, right? So,
yep.
but you gotta stay on the grind because it's not easy. It's sometimes it takes time. Even like people think like of one of my favorite stories is the short-term rental prop platform Airbnb. People think there's a massive success, multi-billion dollar company. People don't realize they actually started off on their business model of selling air mattresses to people so they could rent out rooms. That's where the
Wow.
name Airbnb comes from. Isn't that crazy?
That's great. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that. And they sat there and floundered for like 7 or 8 years trying to figure out their business model. Then they said, well, why don't we just list the properties for rent for the people? And then it started that way. And then here we are, how many years later, and they're one of the largest, prop tech companies in the world. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't own any real estate. You know what I mean? It's genius, right? So that's the type of thing. So I give that advice to entrepreneurs is like stay on the grind, keep going, keep pushing forward. We're doing somewhere between like 5 to 10% month over month growth. But you're gonna stumble onto something eventually that gets you to that hockey stick curve. So
Yeah. I think it's about listening, just finding out
yep.
what people want, getting in touch with the masses, building that community and,
Mhm.
doing something you're passionate about. And then, if you need to pivot because maybe that doesn't have the demand you need, you could find something adjacent to it and like, go from air mattresses to renting out full places.
Exactly. I think you nailed it, Jonathan, too. Is like I would give, entrepreneurs listening to this podcast advice is have a passion for what you do, right? Because it's going to be, some big ups and downs. It's going to be hard to do some mornings to get up and do it and get on that grind. And if you have a passion for it, like you really want to help, you want to make the world a better place, and that's like your core motivation, huge. Like I really do want to make the real estate industry better. I think the way that it's set up now, especially with like the platforms like Zillow, it's taking advantage of not only consumers because they're just sold as a piece of red meat as a lead. Agents can't build a really online presence, lasting one. It's like that's been at the core of what I, have been doing with RealTrade, right? So you have to have a mission for yourself, you know, that you can always be like, hey, I'm doing something good. I'm
Yeah,
making the world a better place. I'm just not in this just to make money. I really do want to make things better. And I think having that is critical, because say what you want about like, the stock market and crypto and all these other investments, like 75% of US millionaires made in real estate.
for sure.
It's
Yeah.
it's not like the most sexiest thing, real estate, but it's like it's it's proven it works. And if you can stay the course and invest, and I'm telling you, one of my favorite sayings is in real estate, and this is so true, is your network is your net worth,
Hmm.
especially in real estate. It is a relationship business,
Yeah,
right? I mean, a good real estate agent, a good broker can make you millions of dollars. You know what I mean? A good real estate attorney can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, so you have those great contacts, in your network, it can pay huge dividends. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
You're
I
not.
think you mentioned before just kind of like advice to entrepreneurs, and I think your story is pretty interesting because you're founder, CEO of a tech startup.
Mhm.
But are you in the weeds writing some code, or are you kind of offering, how did you get into the tech space?
Yeah. No,
What
let me give
advice do you
you,
have for
yeah.
people who
Well,
are
let me
like,
give a big shout out to my team because you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been self-funded to this point. I have some investment from a head of product, Ryan Beckett, which is on our team, is like you can't do this thing without a team, right?
yep,
So this is some really great advice that I want to give out to people is you have to really believe in your team. You have to want them to succeed just as much as you do. Like I've shared equity with my team on RealTrade, just for the time that they've put into the project. I have Daniel, which I met at 1909. Great advice. Get into 1909 if you're an entrepreneur because you can build your whole team there.
shout
He's
out
our
1909,
1909. I mean,
new
Daniel.
office.
The new office. Daniel is a CTO, right? So, and then we have Lataro, which is our junior developer, right? So, but he's a full stack developer as well. So he's building a lot of code. Then we have Ryan Beckett, which is our head of product. So we meet every week, go over the product, what we can do for new development, and then a big thing that I want to give a big shout out to is Christina. She's our head of marketing, right? So she's handling all our social media marketing, all our blog posts, all our email marketing, our newsletters, all that kind of good stuff. And she's amazing. She's been with me since she was an intern when we first launched about 4 years ago.
Wow.
So same with Daniel, same with Latoro. So they've been on the team, and we're a small team, but we're agile. We can do some great developments. But yeah, you have to inspire your team, and you have to trust in them and share equity with them. I mean that's something too, is like I want, RealTrade to be success and I want them to ride that with them, have that with them. So that's something as a aspiring entrepreneur you want to be aware of.
Okay. So the biggest thing, real estate, community driven, network build driven, you're part of
Mhm.
1909, community around entrepreneurs. And now you're talking about how, to build a successful entrepreneurial, avenue or startup, you kind of have to have a good team around you. So
Yep.
what do you do? What advice do you have to someone who, might have just graduated college, all their friends, or, still looking for where the best place to get cheap noodles are? They probably
Mhm.
don't have the network that they're looking to build a multi-million dollar business. What do you do to find that network, those communities? How do you build that team? What advice do you have someone who's kind of
Yeah.
still thinking about all those details?
So I'll give you this advice. It's something that I kind of learned on my own, but it's very true. And it's funny. I'm going to use an analogy because I grew up in northern Minnesota as a hunter. And if you're a hunter and you want to have success, you need to put yourself in a place where there's a lot of traffic with animals, right? Because, you're trying to have, success, you need to be in the place where there's a lot of activity, right? So this is going to be the best advice I could give someone is go every day where there's a lot of activity, where there's a lot of moving and shaking and fellow entrepreneurs and fellow business people. So if I was an aspiring entrepreneur, I would be like downtown, right, where all the activity, where you can bump into people. I would be surrounding myself with other entrepreneurs that are doing big things that are going to inspire me, and I would be going through some classes like an accelerator, like an incubator, because you never know who you're going to meet in these spaces that can help you achieve your dream, or you can help them achieve theirs. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it really is your net worth is your network, Jonathan. Like you have to get in there with people and meet people. I know after COVID, like, we're doing this on Zoom, but like, you know, that having those personal relationships is massive. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of 1999. That's why I'm on the board, is because, we provide a place, not only a place, like an actual physical space where we're all working together in one place, and you're bumping into them at the water cooler or at the kitchen. And, obviously too, we have programming too to help the entrepreneurs, from everything from launching to scaling to, wanting then eventually to exit. And, you know, it's there, right? That we have for 1909. So if you're an entrepreneur, I try to find something similar to that wherever you're at, you
Yeah.
know?
And
Yep.
we've mentioned a couple times, so you're on the board. It's a great place. What is 1909? Just give it the full pitch.
Yeah.
What do you guys do? What do you guys have? And where are you guys located? And yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so 1909 is located right in downtown West Palm Beach. We just opened the new office on Clematis Street. So like the high level, like what we are, first are we're a co-working space, and it's very state of the art. It's beautiful, very relaxing when you walk into the space. And there's all these other awesome entrepreneurs doing massive things. I mean, literally, there's people that I've met. One of my great friends, Aaron Nosovich, was on the board with me in 1909 entrepreneur. I know he was selling like necklaces, online that he was selling for like $20, $30. Now the guy owns a company called Breeze, which is a cannabis drink company that's doing $4 million in sales a month.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I met him in 1909, over 5 years, yeah, about four and a half, 5 years ago now that we met. And that's what I'm saying. That's the types of people that you're going to meet in space.
Yeah.
So, there's awesome entrepreneurs there, but then we also have amazing programming to help you. Like I was very beneficial. Like Jonathan, RealTrade was just an idea. I didn't even have anything built, that I had, and I signed up for the accelerator. And through the accelerator process, I literally met, my developer John, Daniel, and Latoro, and we're able to literally build the tech stack platform for RealTrade through the accelerator. So like, oh my God, like what is that worth? And the accelerator was free.
Wow.
It's part of the programming because RealTrade's 1909 is a nonprofit, so they provide the programming for free for their members, and so they have awesome programming. And then the big thing is obviously the community. It just being around other entrepreneurs that are doing things and that you can talk to and bounce ideas off, share the wins, commiserate in the struggles. That's going to help. And we got an awesome run group. I led a run group that we met every Thursday at 6 a.m. for 2.5 years with some amazing entrepreneurs. Nick Manaki, he runs Bundle IQ, which is an AI company, which is amazing. I use his app every single day. And there's just incredible people in the space that are going to inspire you and help you on your journey. Because I will tell you this, being an entrepreneur, especially a tech entrepreneur, it's one of the most challenging things I've ever done. It's
Yeah.
it's very difficult, and to be around other people that are doing the same thing, you know, yeah,
It sounds like it's almost like no matter what it is, it's it's never just you. I think a lot of like entrepreneurs are like you have to, be the best, you gotta be the smartest, you gotta, but you're saying like, hey, you started an idea and you joined the accelerator, and I'm not saying you didn't know anything or you didn't know how to get things going, but that gave you the tools you needed to put your ideas into motion. So like entrepreneurship, I don't know. For me, it kind of feels like somewhere in there's probably like a singular one kind of mentality behind it. But no, it's a team, it's a community, it's a source that gets funneled in with information and influence from a lot of people around you.
one other piece of advice I want to, give entrepreneurs is, especially when you're in the idea phase, is tell other people about your idea. Be
Mhm.
excited about it. Share how you want to make the world a better place. It's infectious, and people want to hear about it. I love hearing other ideas that entrepreneurs have. I love hearing about yours estimate when you were showing me, Jonathan, and how it is, and then I want to add value. It's like, well, maybe you can do this, or do something this way with a business model. I
Yep.
mean, that's the type of thing that you can do in a place like 1909, right? When you're around fellow entrepreneurs, it's like share your idea, share what you're building. And, we have those types of things, for people at 1909. So that's a massive, massive thing, because it can get lonely, as being an entrepreneur. You can stay in your own head, and not actually build something, and be inspired, you know, just do it. I can't say that enough. I mean, how many people have these ideas for this amazing app? And I've heard some incredible ones over the years, but they just don't do it. They don't take action for it. But when you're around other people that are taking action and actually
Yep.
building stuff and making $4 million a month in sales, Jonathan. Like, wow, how inspiring is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if that doesn't get you motivated, seeing positive people doing the things they love to do and supporting themselves while doing it, then there's not much that could inspire you more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, it can. And, to the staff, at 1909, Shayna, the executive director, I mean, I kind of compare her to like the hen with the little chicks. She's there making sure that all the entrepreneurs are getting connected and getting the resources that they need to succeed. Danielle, she's the co-founder. I mean, she's the spirit of 1909, and just creates such a great welcoming space. And you have Monique and Xavier and everybody that are doing amazing things there. It's incredible. Can't say enough great things about it, Jonathan.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think we're wrapping up, getting close to the end here. So, Ryan, why don't you just plug one last time a couple of things you're doing? Where do people find 1909? Where do people find out more about RealTrade? You know, personal social media, if you want to, talk to the people, kind of express your ideas, let them know where you live.
Yeah, no, I would say if you want to check out 1909, you can go weare1909.org. You can check out that website. Definitely highly suggest that, especially for an entrepreneur in Palm Beach County. Check that out. People can go onto my platform, RealTrade. It's realtrade.io. If you're a buyer or seller, you can sign up for free, get network with awesome agents. I'm on there, tons of amazing agents on there as well that you can get connected with, and of course, search for properties. And then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can just put in Real Trade Inc. and it'll come up on any one of those platforms. Follow us there. We're putting out a lot of good content. I do a bi-weekly webinar slash kind of podcast that I do with an awesome real estate attorney named Jim Brown. You can check in and tune in on that as well. And I share that on the socials, the links to register for that too. So yeah, I'd love to see it too. Any listeners out there want to have some big dreams, want to do some big things, highly advise you to come into 1909. We're right on Clematis Street, right downtown on the 300 block. Beautiful Como building, awesome space. Love to have a conversation with you, help you achieve your dreams too.